Good morning and welcome to this IGTV Live. Today I'm talking about what is with your teenager's mouth. Like the moody, sassy attitude, that sassometer that has them be so rude, and the attitude. And since when is it okay to talk to you like that? Because wowzer. No, it's not. Listen, if you are a parent of a tween, teen, or even young adult, you're going to want to stick around for this one. My name is Allie Payne, and I am a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach, and I've been working with parents of teens for the last 16 years to help them end the painful disconnection, emotional blowups, and stressful silences to build relationships based on trust, respect, and lasting relationships without giving up or giving in. So if this sounds like you, then stick around. I'm going to cover some key points today. And if you're here on Instagram, I'd love a follow. If you're on YouTube, give me a subscribe. Oh, I'm so glad you're finding my content helpful. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about this. So for approximately 12 years, right? You have a relatively friendly child. Like, I'm not saying they're perfect and you're not perfect. And by the way, if that's the first time you've heard that, I'm really sorry. Like, I love you and you are welcome here, but nobody's perfect, okay? But your relationship with your child was pretty decent, right? Like, they pretty much, they liked, like hanging out with you or spending time with you. And they like openly, for the most part, shared like their thoughts and feelings and curiosity about the world. And they loved listening to you and they mimicked you and like life was good, right? Can I get an amen in the comments? Life was good. And after approximately 10 to 12 years of that, just a short period of time in your life, you kind of like, were like, okay, this child is like, we're doing good. We're doing well. We've hit a sweet spot, right? Amen. I think I got this managed. Then, thank you, right? Yes. I am not alone in this. Thank you. So then, it's seemingly overnight, literally seemingly overnight, your teenager gets a moody attitude of sass and spiciness that seems to, first of all, come out of nowhere. Like you could breathe the wrong way in the morning and all of a sudden you get some really nasty or derogatory comment from your teen. Maybe you say like, good morning or morning, and you get some like eyebrowed, like, what do you want from me? Like it's not a good, like, you're like, what even happened? What even happened? And I think the most painful part is it's like, you know your child and you desperately love them. Like you love them. You just don't always like them right now. And I think that is really hard to admit because it goes on in our inside voice or sometimes to only our very closest peers who aren't going to shame and judge us for being like horribly imperfect, is that you love your teen, but you don't always like them because now you see their emotional hot mess, whether they're set off by nothing. Like, well, I'm not going to say that. They're not set off by nothing, okay? But they're set off and they are exploding on you about something that you had nothing to do with. You don't even necessarily know what your teen is talking about. But it is all being projected on you and at you in that moment. And you're like, excuse me, miss or sir, and so you've got these explosions, and then, maybe you just, so that comes out of nowhere. You don't even know what they're talking about, but it's all your fault. Or maybe it's that you ask them to do something. Maybe you ask them to clean their room, or maybe you ask them to empty the dishwasher, or like go pick up the dog poop or empty the cat litter, right? You ask them to do something basic that is generally their responsibility. And then you get like your head bitten off about something, and it's so defensive. They're so defensive, as if you are now literally the worst person in the world. And they're blaming you, and there's a lot of yelling. Have you noticed that? Why though? Like, there's a lot of yelling. And I'm not saying that you're necessarily yelling, or like, this isn't from a judgment place, but all of a sudden, this relationship you had with your child is now this like spicy, sassy, moody, defensive attitude, more explosive, and there's yelling. Because when when your child is yelling at you, what is your first reaction, right? To yell, like, hey, no. So now you're yelling too, right? And, or you get the door slamming, right? Do you get the door slamming where maybe you said like, hey, how was your day? Or maybe you asked them to do something or something, and you get a super defensive, maybe even rude response, and then they're marching off down to their room, and they're slamming their door. And like, where do you go with that? And you're wondering, seriously, what happened to your teen because you did not raise them to think that talking to you like that was ever okay. It's not okay. I mean, if you can you even imagine if you talked to your parents like that? You wouldn't be here to even tell the story if you talked to your parents like that, right? Like, what is going on with teens? And, I think there's a lot of really bad information going on about why this is happening. And it starts with, first of all, well, you're a bad parent. Yeah, right? You totally get it. Yeah, you're a bad parent. So there's some kind of shamey, blamey message going on that you're just being too lenient. I mean, you need to crack down on that. Like, hi, when did you not learn how to parent? I mean, you don't just let your teenager talk to you like that, like, because obviously then you are failing as a parent. So you need to like put your foot on the gas and step it up a little bit, or you're not being a good parent, right? So there's that message, which, by the way, it's BS. It's actually BS. Like, in the way it's intended, like, you need to be stricter, you need more punishment, you need to take their phone, you need to ground them, you need to let them know right now, not in my house, right? And so there's that. And then there's also the like, well, you just need to be more patient. Like, you just need to be more patient and be more lenient. Does anybody else feel like it's like you can't win? You can't win, but either way, you get crapped on and somehow told that you are failing in your role as a parent. And if you had just done better, well, oh, wait, have you heard this one? It's too late now. I mean, it's a little late to start now. Like, if you haven't already, instilled the values of respect in them when they were a child, it's too late by the time they're a teen. Have you heard that one? Also BS. Also wild BS, okay? So, I'm going to just say right up front that I do not subscribe to parent shaming. Ever. I do not subscribe to parent shaming. I was a spicy, saucy teen, okay? I was full of all the heat, like 5 chili spices. I was a 5 chili spice teen, okay? I relate this to food because I love food. And I have raised 2 teens. And my oldest has ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. And so with an unbalanced brain, when we were going through all of this, trying to figure life out with him, they have a very high negativity bias, which means they're often very angry and defensive, more so than the average teen. So he was often very angry and like, oh, and he, oh yeah. And I'm like, I am trying to love you, but I don't even like you. Have you heard yourself say that? Right? Okay. So, I'm just going to guess, like, here's the worst part about this whole teen thing. Type yes if you agree with this comment. Okay. Unfortunately, when this first shows up, when your child becomes this attitudey, sassy, grumpy, defensive, monomaniacal, demanding teenager, okay, you are feeding off each other's energy and emotions. And it goes from like seemingly calm, everything's okay, to a category 5 hurricane in a blink of an eye. A category 5 hurricane in the blink of an eye. Right? Okay, so type yes if does that feel like it's about right? Like you seem to be doing okay, but you're like, it's like you're feeding off each other's emotions. And so, you know, if you had a bad day, because you're allowed to have a bad day, and you're a bit frustrated, your teenager's feeding off of you, and now you escalate. Or maybe your teenagers had a bad day and they're like throwing all the shade at you, so you're like feeding off of them, and it's like, and it escalates. And it happens so fast and so unconsciously. And it's so frustrating because I know that's not what you want. I know that's not how you want to feel about yourself. I know that's not how you want to feel about your teen. And I know that's not how you want to feel in your relationship. Right? Yes, exactly. Okay, so what you really want, I know this. I know you love your teen. Like you're here, right? So I have zero questions about that, okay? What you want is to have open and honest conversations that create like a mutual understanding, right? I mean, most of the time with a moody, saucy teen, I think all you're trying to do is create understanding. Like you're trying to like, what happened? Like, just tell me, like, how are you feeling? Just tell me what's going on so I can support you or I can help you. You're constantly trying to create understanding. But your teenager, they're not answering, and they're not giving you, they're not allowing you to help or like let you in. Like, why can't they just say what they actually mean or ask politely for what they want? It's not like you wouldn't be willing to step in and help them. It's not like you aren't there to love and support them. And if your teenager could just literally use a few kinder words to explain, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and this is, you know, I need your help with this, or I'm super frustrated, I had a bad day, you'd be there, right? You would be there. Yeah, and if you ask if something's wrong, it's like you lift the lid off again. So I know what you were hoping for, what you had planned on the teen years, I'm pretty sure, okay, is you want your family to know how to work through anger and conflict in a calm and reasonable way. Kind of like you did when they were a child, right? Like when they were younger, it's not like anger never showed up. It's not like conflict never showed up. There was anger, there was conflict, okay? But when they were younger, there seemed to be more skills like around working through hard emotions. But now that they're a teen, it's like all those skills have gone out the window and nothing seems to be working. So your family is like stuck in this 0 to 5 hurricane category without a sense of reasoning or the tools or something to work through all this. And so these relaxed conversations that you just desperately want to have with your teen, these kind of relaxed conversations, even if it is about emotions, you want to feel confident and equipped to respond, right? Like, this is the hardest part, is you start to question yourself because you're like, okay, I just want to know how to respond. I just want to know what to say. I want to know how to say what to say. I mean, you also, I know, would like to know that you raise a teen who reflects your values, who understands using manners and respect, like showing and reflecting those values that you're espousing back to you. So what the heck is going on? And it's like overnight, they just became someone you don't know. And as I said, like some days you don't even like. So here's the first thing I want to share with you. Okay. If you only listen to what your teen is saying without understanding why they're saying it, you're going to react every single time, and you're going to end up in that Hurricane 5, okay, that level 5 hurricane, in a yelling match, trying to shut them down. Type yes in the comments if you get this. If you only listen, I'm going to say this again. If you only listen to what they're saying, instead of understanding why they're saying it, you are going to end up in an escalated situation with probably more yelling because you're trying to shut them down. And that's a normal reaction, totally normal. Because again, you're like, hey, you have stepped out of line on the saucy, spicy, like 5 chili scale, like, and I did not raise you that way, and that's not going to happen in this house, so we are going to shut that down, like RFN, like right now, right? Yeah, totally. I totally get it. But it is a normal reaction to want to do that. It's a normal reaction. So I just want to say, if you've done that, I've done that, it's okay. We are not perfect here. It's normal, okay? When you are reacting, here's the counterintuitive thing about this, right? Here's the counterintuitive part about this, is that when you're reacting, your emotions, your own emotions are getting the best of you, right? So you're engaging with your teen and being like, don't talk to me like that. Like, and then you cut them off. You are matching their escalated energy. So you yell back. Maybe you talk over them, right? Do you do that? Do you do that where if you like, oh, I'm just going to yell louder and talk over you to shut you up, to stop this train right now. And so you just yell louder and talk over them. Also doesn't work. And then, or, okay, you send them to their room. You shut them down. You ignore them. But all of that just seems to escalate them. And you're like, excuse me, why, if I am desperately trying to turn this train around, why are they escalating? I'm just trying to show you the rules of this house and the values that we live under, and you have gone way offside of them, so I'm trying to shut that down, yet they escalate further. So this is the thing, is it's kind of backwards thinking, okay, of what you need to do to turn this around is kind of backwards thinking. Your teen's emotional blow-ups, again, they start to trigger your brain into fight or flight, and then you're already triggered, and now you're both emotionally unregulated. 2 emotionally unregulated brains are not likely going to find a healthy way through whatever is going on, okay? It's not likely to happen. It's like 2 drunks trying to reason with you. Like your intellectual brains are offline. You know, it doesn't work. So the minute you start yelling, even if it's in response to your teen, you're actually modeling the exact behavior that you don't want. The minute that you are reacting to your teen, you are modeling dysregulation by engaging with their level of emotion, of unregulated emotion, and now you're both unregulated, and you are now projecting your triggered brain of fight or flight that is now unregulated. You're now projecting that on them, just like they're projecting it on you. So do you see how it ends up? Like, it's this backwards thinking, like, what? But it's normal. It is a normal reaction to do this. I just want to break it down for you, okay? So if you start yelling because you disagree with your teen, that has never, ever, ever, like in the history of mankind, led to a positive result, right? If your teen is like yelling and coming at you with spiciness and you're yelling at them, it's never going to lead to the result you want. So, and here's the bananas thing, is that using consequences or punishments actually makes the situation worse and your communication and connection deteriorate even further. Now you might be thinking, well, excuse me, the language they're using is not appropriate. That is not okay in our house. So if I don't use consequences and punishment, then aren't I just being totally lenient? Like, aren't I just allowing this? You know, and I get it. Here's the thing. It's just more ways of shutting it down. Like, shutting your teen down, it's like holding a lid on a boiling pot. Have you ever tried holding a lid on a boiling pot? Like really like holding it down? Because it builds in that pot, the pressure builds in that pot super fast, and what ends up happening is you're gonna get burned. You're gonna get burned because you're trying to hold the pressure in because you don't want to like take the lid off and have a look at what's inside. It's messy. You're like, no, we don't have those feelings around here. No, So you're holding the lid on the boiling pot, right? So yeah, like, again, it's a normal reaction. I just want to normalize, like, you are a normal, amazing parent. I get it. The thing is, you get stuck. Here's the key point I want you to get out of this. You get stuck in one way of thinking, and this is what it sounds like. So type yes in the comments if this is familiar with you. You should know better. You should know better. Have you thought that, or have you said that to your teen when they're coming at you with this like 5 chili spice, like emotional outburst, you know, and you guys are engaging in this emotional dysregulation that's never going to get you anywhere? What you're thinking, or what you're saying is, you should know better, right? Your teen must be doing this on purpose, intentionally, because you raised your teen under very clear boundaries, and that is way out of bounds. Like, since when has that been allowed, right? So this is the kind of thinking that you get stuck in, is you should know better. And if your teen is doing this intentionally, like, and they're going to disrespect you like this, you need to stop it right now so they know who's boss, because you cannot go into the teen years letting them think that they can just boss you around or treat you like that, and get this in check before it gets out of hand and they go and pull this stunt at grandma's house during Sunday dinner. Because that's a crap storm of judgment, isn't it? When your teenager acts out or like that around family, ooh, you ain't never felt judgment and shame quite like that from your family. Because now you really are a bad parent, right? Like, oh, it's terrible. The reality is, though, it's not working because your teen keeps piping up and stepping over the line. So if you want to change it, you need to try something different. So the counterintuitive thing that you need to do to fix this problem is, I want you to think back to when you were a teen. And I know some of you have been posting this in the comments, which I so appreciate. Think back to when you were a teen. What did you want from your parents? What did you want from your parents? You probably just wanted your parents to listen without reacting. Just listen. Just, can you please be that safe person where I can just come and it's okay? It's safe? You probably wanted your parents to ask a few questions about you. Not how they could fix it, but about you. Yes, you just wanted your parents to listen, right? Like, think back to when you were a teen, right? And thinking, when you make up your teen is behaving this way because it's against you and you're taking it personally, rather than this whole emotional mess being a reflection of what's going on inside your teen. what is the reflection that what's going on inside of your teenager? Right? So if you're used to that current pattern of your teen gets super spicy and then you react, and then you got two unregulated brains, and then you've got yelling or conflict or storming off to the room. So tween, the puberty hits the brain, like can be at like 11, 12, 13 for sure. So yes, absolutely. If you're used to this pattern, it's going to take a few tries to undo it, because we don't learn or change anything overnight. Okay? You got into this pattern, and it might be a pattern that you even learned from your parents. So it's pretty ingrained back there in your unconscious brain, right? Yeah, your teen wants you to just listen. Like, can you just listen, ask a few supportive questions, and just be that safe place where I can like experience this whole emotional mess going on inside me. So your teenager is also used to this pattern. And this is a weird irony. You both want a different result, but you're both familiar with this pattern. And our brains love to repeat the familiar, even if we know it's not working and we don't like it. And so this takes some conscious effort to change this pattern and create that awareness in the moment to choose something different, to choose different, okay? Because your teenager is as equally familiar with the pattern. So if they're used to conflict and you're not engaging in the conflict anymore and you're kind of responding, they might feel weirded out. They might be like, because teenagers are super suspicious of things they don't know that aren't familiar, and they'll be like, what are you trying to do? What do you want from me? Even though you're doing the right thing, okay? So I want you to be really patient and don't throw in the towel after the first 10 attempts, okay? Don't throw in the towel after the first 10 or so attempts. Give yourself time to instead of reacting, to just listen, because we're changing that thinking, right? Of that they're doing this intentionally and they should know better, to what they most desperately want is to be they just want to be heard. They just want you to listen and be a safe place that they can bring all that back to. So I want you to aim for consistency over perfection, right? Be kind to yourself and your teen. I want you to aim for consistency over perfection, because what doesn't work when you're trying to change this pattern with your teen is going back and forth to holding the lid on the pot and trying to shut them down, or being super lenient and doing nothing. That actually creates more confusion for your teen in trying to change this pattern than just aim for consistency, not perfection. Okay, I hope that makes sense, because we don't need to be perfect. Yeah, we don't need that. Our teens aren't, and we don't need to be either. Okay, so your teenager will trust your new shift, your new response, not reaction, but your new response. When you are aiming for consistency, they're going to trust that you really do mean this. You really are attempting to change this unhealthy pattern, this cyclone that shows up, right? When I made this shift with my teens, I was way less than perfect, trust me, because my inside voice was like, oh, I just want to send you to your room right now or take your phone because this is not appropriate and I don't have the energy to deal with this and I've had a hard day and all these other things, right? That was my inside voice. It was like, I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to be the one that was doing more work when I'm exhausted too. And so I was so far from perfect when I was doing this with my kids. And I just want to say that. And it took me a couple years. I had two kids. They're a couple years apart. I had to go through both, right? So I really, really had to practice and find my own healthy coping techniques so that I could catch myself in that moment and avoid getting pulled back into the old patterns, especially when I was tired, stressed, or hungry. Because your teenager might be tired, stressed, or hungry. and how much can you control your teenager? If they're tired, stressed, or hungry, or whatever, how much can you control what your teenager is going to bring to you, right? You can't. You can only control your side of the relationship and the way that you respond, right? So I stuck it out because I was so committed to creating something differently than what I got. I was so committed and resolved to create a different experience for my teens than I got. So I stuck it out. And now with my teenagers, they're actually young adults now. But when they were teenagers, I stuck it out through that time, and we were able to have more regulated conversations because I stayed regulated and responded instead of reacting. So we were able to have more conversations. I found out more about what was really going on for them. There was way less yelling and conflict, even when they were still full of saucy emotions. And this is one of the things that parents tell me the most when they use my proven framework and take my programs, is that they take everything less personally. That because they have learned how to stay calm and regulated and the specific things to say in those moments with practice, because we're not going for perfect, we go for practice. Through practice, they have developed the skill, and that their teenager now still brings all their emotions to them, but not in such a hot, spicy way, because their teenager knows that they're going to be the safe place to feel heard, and to process their feelings. So they willingly come to their parent and share now, but they have easy conversations about it, and it remains respectful for the most part. I mean, teenagers aren't perfect either, but it remains respectful, and they have this depth of connection because of using my framework and the specific script. So if you have any questions about going from reacting to listening, I would love for you to post them below. I'm going to post this on my Instagram feed. You're going to also find this on YouTube and Facebook. So hit the follow and the subscribe button. I'd love to hear any insights that you had while you were watching this about this whole going from like 0 to stage 5 hurricane and like feeding off each other's emotions, and how like you should know better, right? And how this pattern just continues to continue because it was probably set up when you were a teen as well. So I'd love to hear your questions, comments. Please post them below, and I'm going to be here live on Thursday again. So I will see you then. And I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.